What's up, everybody? This is Bill Mack here, along with Team B member
BulletB at your service.
Well, sir. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great, man. Can't complain. Everything's doing all right so far. Yeah.
I tell you what, buddy. I've seen some awesome posts from those videos you've been and screenshots you've been taking from that PS4, man. And I must say, I'm getting kind of jealous, kind of itchy, to get one myself.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. Next gen gaming platforms give you the ability to share screenshots, make videos, and we got the Share Factory app on PS4, which is marvelous. There's no restrictions. You record a gaming clip, you can add the camera with the audio or just audio commentary with the camera or without the camera. I mean, there's a lot you can make game reviews with. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do with it. That's cool. Not to mention all the great games you could play on there and things like that. I could take WWE 2K15 for example, create you, and make a video of us fighting on there and actually upload it to YouTube and it be in HD. I mean, that's awesome for that. Got a video editor on it. They took out them restrictions. You can play MP4 files, AVI files, play your music on there. You can't save your music to the hard drive, but that's okay. They'll at least play the shit. They play torrent movies off the thumb drive, so be all right. PlayStation, TV. PlayStation can say that. They don't have to though. That's Microsoft. Hey, we got Xbox One. It plays Netflix. Like, duh, we all know that. You're going to center your conference around your console playing TV and Netflix and all that stuff. We already know that. Whereas PlayStation focused on games. Games. People that buy a console, they buy it for games. If you want Netflix, buy a fucking Roku box. People buy a PlayStation to play games. Netflix and stuff is great for stuff. It appeals to the gamers more than just your casual people that are looking for a Roku box. So Xbox was like, hey, buy our $400 console to have TV, Netflix TV. I'm like, the casual consumer would be like, why would I do that? I'll just get a Roku box. But a gamer would be like, okay, I can have my games and I can have my apps. So PlayStation focuses on games, and they say, by the way, we also stream Netflix, and you get all that shit. But the focus is games, because only gamers are going to buy it anyway, mostly.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I mean, I'm just amazed at all the things that has happened and transitioned over the 20 plus, almost 30 years that these gaming systems, have evolved from the very beginning until now. And I'm just surprised. I was looking over on your, some of your gameplay videos, some of your videos, you talking and sharing your reviews and things like that of the games, and it's just amazing to me, how creative and the tools that they give you to bring such a good product as, videos like that, and how well connected you've put them together to, it looks really professional, and the graphics and stuff blow me away. These tools and things they've evolved, because as you and I know, over time it has been leaps and bounds, it seems like, over the years, where you look back at the very first consoles that probably we got as kids. Look how we played those, and you look at today and how the consoles that we play today, and see how it is. Because even though, like you said, PlayStation is tops over Xbox, it's great to have that competition between them, because you always want to get a true gamer wants the best gameplay and the most options out of the best gaming console that there is out there. Yeah.
You remember the Monday Night Wars, WCW, WWE?
Yeah.
That's Xbox and PlayStation right there. That's the new wars right there, the competitive nature of it. You're either a Microsoft fanboy or a Sony fanboy. It's like the Monday Night Wars, you know what I mean? And I've always been with PlayStation, man, because like I retired briefly after PlayStation 2, And I only got back into gaming because PlayStation 3 had Metal Gear Solid 4 and some other games, and I just stuck with Sony because I was just familiar with them. And then I just keep up with it. But gaming, it keeps evolving, like you said, and that's why I keep playing them, because I'm like, they get better and better. And I think, like, man, what if I had this when I was a kid? You know, this is awesome. And I just see it I see the evolution of it. Like, the PlayStation 4 is not my first console, you know, like it would be with a young person. So yeah. I've seen the evolution of it, the technology, and I'm just blown away. I can really appreciate it. But did you see my Share Factory outro in the game reviews and all that?
Yeah.
You can cut that out. Yeah, you don't have to add that, but I do it anyway just to give Share Factory props, you know, giving them props. But you can cut out them outros. But that Share Factory app, it's very easy to use, man. You use thumbsticks and trim, crop. It's very easy to use. That's why I like it. And it has the transitions. You click transitions. You can add the transitions between clips, like if you're adding multiple clips. So like I'll do like 2 15-minute videos, put them together, put that transition effect in. It's very easy to do. And you just click finish and put and add another clip, which is the Share Factory outro. You know, add a clip, Share Factory outro. Intro, I put the PlayStation theme intro, and they got other themes you can use as well. Like in the Resident Evil game, I use the graveyard theme. It'll show a graveyard going into the cemetery, then it'll start the gameplay. It's pretty cool. In the raid mode gameplay I made, you know.
Well,
it's easy. I mean, don't get discouraged, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Share Factory is very easy to use. You know, if you want to record gameplay, save it to your hard drive on your PS4 like you do, then go to Share Factory. It's very easy. It even comes with a digital manual, but you don't. I mean, it's just easy. You know, I just love stuff like that because I grew up, you know, with a camcorder recording things. I love video editor software applications. I got a good one on my tablet too. I mean, I just enjoy tinkering with stuff like that. You know, I'm good at things I don't make money at. You know, but I did make 10 cents on YouTube, so that came to my Google Wallet's credit card there. You know, YouTube paid me. You know, so keep up the good work. Here's your dime. You know, my net's worth a dime. I'm worth the whole dime, man. That's awesome. Justin Bieber's worth billions of dollars, and old Brandon's worth a dime. But I say you get more out of Brandon than you would with a Justin Bieber. You know what I'm saying? Because he ain't got no personality. You know, he ain't nothing but he's just a voice. He's a 12-year-old boy that appeals to 12-year-old girls. You know what I'm saying? Whereas BulletB is worth 10 cents, but you get more for your money. You know what I'm saying? You give me a dime, I'll give you some good content. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally get that, man. I totally understand that 100%. You know, get more bang for the buck for what you got. You know, but it's just, you know, I was just thinking back. I mean, now think back, Dave. You've got all these, you know, working out all these things since you've had your PlayStation 4. You know, like I said, hopefully in the future, you know, not too long, I'll be able to get one, you know, where I can try to catch up. You know, I've been behind with mine. But, you know, you think back there, what was the very first system that you remember that you ever had as a kid?
Well, my mom had my uncle, he had one of the Ataris, because we used to live at my grandpa's house at the time. My uncle was there, my mom was there, and they had the Atari. I forget which model it was, but I was 3 years old, man, just tinkering with that. And they had some kind of little space shooter game, and it was really cool, you know, a really cool video game. And then my neighbor Michael, who was 4 years old, he got the NES with the Mario and Duck Hunt game, and I go to his house all the time playing Mario and stuff like that, and I could not wait to get a Nintendo NES. So Nintendo was technically my first console that was mine. Back in like '89, something like that. You know, I was 5 years old. I might have been '88, but I told Mom, I said, I really want that Nintendo, you know, for Christmas and all that stuff. And she ordered it from Finger Hut, made payments on it. It came with the little RF adapter so it would work on a black and white TV. That's all we had at the time because Mom was going through a divorce. At this time, we're living in the house I'm in now, and we moved out of my grandpa's house because she got married and everything. Then when the divorce happened, he left with the black and white TV, and my friend Michael, he's kind of jealous. He's like, "Oh, you got an NES? Well, it ain't gonna work on a black and white TV." I said, "Yes, it will." And it came with a little RF adapter and all that stuff. So that was my first console. Was the Nintendo, and I had some really good memories with that. Got it from Finger Hut. Came with the adapter, and it came with Duck Hunt, Mario cartridge, and it came with the actual zapper gun, the orange zapper gun. It came with all. It didn't come with the NES glove though, and I wanted that, but later on I learned that the glove wasn't all that. Yeah. But back in the day, I'd be like, man, it'd been cool if it came with the little glove thing.
The power glove.
That was just a gimmick. That was just a gimmick. I did the Super Scope 6 for the Super Nintendo later on, but the targeting was out of alignment, because I'd be aiming right in the center and the target be over here, you know, just out of line, like RoboCop in the first RoboCop movie when he gets shot to shit and his partner's trying to help him with his targeting. His target is off. That's how the Super Scope 6 was. It was off balance, out of alignment, just like the RoboCop movie. So I had the Super Scope 6. I'd be aiming in the left corner, trying to hit something up in the right corner. You know, I was shooting ass backwards with it. What about you? What was your first console? Bill, what was your first?
Thinking back, I think the first console that I had for Christmas, I think my mom had gotten me was, I think it was the 7200. I believe was the very first one. That's the one with the black console with the silver stripe and the push buttons. Now these weren't the ones. Now I've had
joystick, with the joystick.
No, well the joysticks I had with the 7800 was not the square one. You know, you had the square ones with the orange button on top with the stick, and then you had the long ones with the buttons on the sides. You know, with the controls. So you know, you had a button on each side that you hold it, and you could just move it, you know, around and around, and you know, for it to go and stop and whatever. And I think the game that come with that was Pole Position 2. Now that was my favorite game that came with that console, because you know, that was back in, like, I don't know if it was 88, 89, I think, when I got that, or it might have been a little bit around that time whenever they came out. But that was the very first console I had. You know, I'd never had a video game console, and it was so fun because we got it out there, and my mom, my dad, and all of us, and my brother and sister, we would all play. I mean, we had these games, like you said, Space Invaders, you know, the game where they're shooting the stuff. I mean, that was cool to me, dude, and that was the very first game console that I can remember having. And over time, you know, I got the 2600, which with that console was a little bit different because, as you remember, the Atari 2600s, they had the sticks go off and on. You didn't have to push buttons. They had to switch, you know, up and down for it to go off and on, and the cartridge and stuff. But those were very first game systems that I can remember having, you know, before graduating up. But over the years, you know, I've tried, as you've said, you've stayed true to PlayStation. I've kind of bounced around, you know. I've kind of more or less wanted to.
You're a whore.
No, I'm an experiment. I'm an experimenter.
That's perfectly fine.
But
you know, you came back to the good side, man. It's all good. It's like driving a Chevy. It's like driving a Chevy for a couple of years. Then you say, "Well, I want to go back to Ford." You know, it's cool. I came back home, man.
Well, I didn't mind having either one. You know, I mean, it wasn't until this online stuff that it really got to matter. Because me, I grew up as, like you said, you know, I had the Sega Saturn, you know, the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo, the regular Nintendo, you know, the Game Boy, you know, all these different kinds, the PS1 and the PS2, and now PS3 is what I have. I've had just about all the machines. I had the Xbox 360, the regular Xbox, which looked like looked like two center blocks together. I mean, it was about the size of a VCR.
Yeah, Microsoft was new to the console scene. That's why I stuck with PlayStation, because they got a heritage. Nintendo's got a heritage too that goes back further than, well, not as far as Atari, but you know what I mean. I just stuck with the traditional companies. Now, like I said, I had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the Game Boy. I had the Super Game Boy, the Game Boy Color. I was a Nintendo guy growing up. Same with my baby brother now. He grew up with the Wii. He's got the 3DS. He's got the Wii U. He's stuck in his Nintendo ways, and that's cool because I like Nintendo. I do like Nintendo. That's my second home. You know, Sony and Nintendo, they hang out with each other. You know what I'm saying? They're both in the same party. They try to help each other out. But after the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Saturn came out. And since the PlayStation, Sony was a kind of a new company and all that stuff, I said, I'm going to get the Sega Saturn. The Saturn was a good console. It wasn't a success over here and everything like that, but I said, okay, because I was a Nintendo fanboy. My friends had the Genesis, and I like the Genesis, but, you know, I was just a Nintendo guy. And then PlayStation 1 came out, Sega Saturn came out. I said, okay, I'll just jump ship and jump to Sega, get the Sega Saturn. I'm familiar with Sega, so I'll get that. And Saturn didn't work out too well, as we know. And a friend of mine at the time, he had a PlayStation 1. And I went over there and played it, and I was just blown away by it. I was like, oh, man, the graphics are better. The processor was better in the system because the games were fast. Right. But on Saturn, we were kind of slow. So I sold my Sega Saturn and all my games with my Saturn, and I got a PlayStation 1 with 2 games, and it was totally worth it. And I've been with PlayStation ever since. But I followed Sega. I was still a Saturn supporter, and Sega Dreamcast came out, and I said, no, I'm going to get a PlayStation 2. You know, because I was very happy with the PlayStation 1 from 95 to the year 2000. And then this PlayStation 2 came out, the Dreamcast came out. I said, I really would like to get the Sega Dreamcast, but I don't think it's going to be a success, and it wasn't. So I just stuck with PlayStation ever since. PlayStation 3, we had our downtime, but I stuck with them. I said, PlayStation, if Sony stops making games, PlayStation brand stops, I'll just stop, you know, because that's just the brand I'm with. Unless Sega comes back, or I'll probably jump to Nintendo or something. But, yeah, I've just been with Sony since 95, but before that it was Nintendo. I never messed with Microsoft, but I respect Microsoft and Xbox and all that, but I am a Sony fanboy, but I'm getting to where I respect other companies and their consoles and all that. So it's all good. You know. Did you ever have the Sega Dreamcast?
No, well, because I jumped back from the Sega Saturn to the PlayStation. I was really excited to get the Saturn because, like you said, it went from the Sega Genesis, which was, you know, a cartridge game system, to the Sega, right. Sega Saturn, which became using disc, you know, and that to me was a big thing for me because I stuck with the Genesis before moving to the PlayStation and PlayStation 2, and to me that was an exciting thing to have at the time, you know. But it's like you said, you know, graphics wise, it wasn't there where it needed to be. You know, granted, when you're looking at something new and they're trying to go from an 8-bit system to a 16-bit to a 32-bit to a 64-bit. You know, it takes it, but it's like you've said in your videos and you mentioned, you know, you have to know what you're doing with what you got. And that was the problem with Saturn, is they just didn't know how to maximize what they had, and that's where PlayStation took over, and, you know, it has reigned supreme ever since then. Now, I love Sega. I love the Saturn, you know, and I loved the Genesis when I had it, but no, as far as Dreamcast, no, because by then I saw, you know, that
writing on the wall. Yep.
Huh?
You saw the writing. I said you saw the writing on the wall with Sega by then, like I did.
Well, it's not necessarily.
The Dreamcast was a really good system. I don't know what the problem was. I guess there was just too many consoles out at that time, and Sega fucked up with the Saturn, and people just didn't want to give the Dreamcast a chance. But the Dreamcast was really good too, man. It was just as powerful as the PS2, and it was a success in Japan, but that's about it. And Sega didn't make no more consoles after that. Now, but Sega's just a game company now. They'll still make a Sonic game here and there, like Sonic All-Star Racing. They made that for PS3 and Xbox, and that was a really good game, man. Sega makes some good games for like Shimu, that game, it's on PlayStation 3 and Xbox and all that. So Sega's, you know, just making games nowadays, and that's a good thing, because I like Sega and I like playing their games. But back in the day, you know, I had the Super Nintendo. I couldn't afford both platforms, but my friend JT at the time, he had the Sega Genesis, and I would always go over there and play on his Sega. Man, he had the 32X and the Sega CD, and the Sega CD didn't do too well, but it was cool because it had live action cutscenes on it and all that stuff. But that's why I got a Sega Saturn and the PlayStation 1 instead of the Nintendo 64. Because like you were saying, games were going to CDs. You know, they were being disc games. Put more information on it. So that's why I didn't really like the Nintendo 64, because it was still cartridge based, and I just wanted a CD game console at the time. And the Nintendo 64 had a good run, but PlayStation 1, I think, was the better console. So
Now,
the the 64 was more powerful. It was 64 bits. PlayStation 1 was only 32 bits. But Nintendo 64 games, they looked better, but they couldn't fit that much information on it because it was just a cartridge. And, you know, I just liked the disc games better. It was revolutionary at the time and all that stuff.
well, one game that I give a shout out to, gaming system wise, was the GameCube, the Nintendo GameCube. Now, you know, it didn't get a whole lot of fanfare, but, you know, for one thing, it was a disc, which it was a disc, you know, operating system as well, you know, but it, you know, and it had those little small discs, you know, very small ones, and yet, you know, you know, but they were, the thing I liked about it was cool, and for those, you know, because you never seen the little small ones, you know, and it always gets your eye, you know, when you see something you're not used to seeing, instead of those great big discs, you know, you were like, well, we're going to try to make it where we're making them smaller, where you can carry more around with you. And I got that. And to me, when I got a GameCube, because I went retro back when in my past relationship with Sweet Pea, when her and I were together, I went back and got a GameCube, and I was just amazed. I mean, the Zelda games that come with it, you know, it was a really good you know, a good gaming console at the time, you know. And also, is you remember, you could also buy the adapter that you could screw into the bottom of it, and you could play your Game Boy Advance games, and also in it as well. That was a cool thing to do, because you could, if you had a Game Boy or Game Boy Advance, you could just pop those games in there in the bottom of it, and it would play your Game Boy Advance games right through your GameCube. So even though GameCube didn't have a whole lot, I think it was a really, you know, really good system.
Well, gaming sites like IGN.com, GameSpot, places like that, they still say the GameCube controller is one of the best controllers ever made. Mm-hmm. You know, even on the Wii and the Wii U, they'll let you use the GameCube controller. You know, the GameCube controller is one of the best of all time. It's still, to this day, people still say the GameCube controller was one of the best ever. You know, but at the time, the GameCube, it did okay, but it was behind, you know, Microsoft and PlayStation at the time. It was almost going down the Sega route, but not that bad. And then Nintendo came out with the Wii and turned things around. The Wii is still one of the best selling consoles.
I disagree. I don't like the Wii. I don't.
Yeah, I understand that, but the Wii outsold the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So Nintendo, they had to change up a little bit because the GameCube was behind, but the Wii was very successful. The Wii U is not, because you know, because the motion controls and the tablet, that stuff's not revolutionary no more. When the Wii came out, the motion controls, all that stuff was new, and that's why people were picking it up.
Yeah, but it was cheap too, though, dude. You have to look at the pricing on it. You could buy 2 of Wii's or 3 Wii's for the price you could of a you know, a PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, you know, Xbox One. I never. I mean, if you played the regular like the regular demo to come with it, this Wii Sports, that's cool. The Wii Sports was good, but outside of that, dude, having to turn the controller around, use the nunchuck, I didn't like it. To me, I feel like the Wii, in my opinion, it was one of the worst consoles that I've played. Now, granted, I'm a person that maybe I was in a minority that liked the minority gaming consoles, you know, and that's okay. But just to, in my opinion, they may have rated it like that. I never liked the Wii. You know, I didn't have a Wii U, and I've seen them, but like you said about the controller for the GameCube, you could take the Wii controller, a handheld controller, and that would double as a GameCube controller, you know, with the dummy. Whenever you got the GameCubes that didn't have the dummy ports in them, you know, because some GameCubes had all 4 ports in the sides, and some had the dummy ports where they didn't have them at all. And I think that's where they messed up in a lot of ways too, is because unless it was like Mario, I think it was Mario Land or something, that's the one that came with the ports, and then you had some that didn't have the ports at all. And I didn't like that fact, because I feel like they could have done a better job. But you could use the Wii controller, the hand remote control, not the wand thing, but a regular controller, and use it as a GameCube controller. So I did like that, but I just did not like the Wii console at all.
Yeah, I understand that. The GameCube was like the last console that was for the core gamer, you know, where the Wii was more for the casual people. A lot of casual people bought the Wii because of the motion controls and stuff. And but then they came out with the Wii Pro controller, so you could play games with the actual good controller and all that stuff. So they tried to make it up for it. And the Wii U's the same way. They just released the Pro controller for the Wii U, because people are tired of the tablet that came with. They want to use the actual Pro controller. Actually, I didn't think I like the Wii U, man. It was just the way it was marketed. You know, they didn't do too well with it, because my brother, he's got the Wii U, and it has third-party games on it as well as first-party games. And the tablet is actually not that bad. It's kind of big and bulky, but it's lightweight, and it's kind of cool. I see where they were going with it. It's just not catching on over here. But I see what they were trying to do with it. It's actually a pretty good invention, but it's just not catching on. And people think the Wii U is just the Wii with the tablet. Like, no, it's another console. So the name kind of messed it up. They should have called it Wii 2 or something, because when they call it Wii U, it's just the Wii console with the tablet. They think, oh, it's just an add-on to the Wii. Like, no, it's a whole new console. So Nintendo kind of messed up with the marketing on the Wii U.
But couldn't you set that gaming system? What was it? You could set it down and play it. What was that little thing it could do? What was that the call where you could set? Was it the Wii U, the one that you could set down on something and play it off the TV? Was that the one?
Yeah, because they had like Mario Golf. You take the tablet, you put it in the center of the floor, and then you just, you know, swing like you're playing golf, and the tablet would recognize it, things like that. Mm. But it would have been a cool idea 10 years ago. It's just everybody's got a tablet now, and they don't really care about the Wii tablet. The Wii U tablet, that was the whole focus of it. You know, it's a game console that comes with a tablet. You could do other stuff with it. And people, the Wii was all about motion controls. That's why it sold so well. It was new at the time. The Wii U is all about the tablet and gaming. But since tablets have already catched on, it's not revolutionary. So people just didn't really care that much for it, the tablet. And that's why they're selling the Wii U Pro controllers, and they'll let you use GameCube controllers on it and stuff like that. Because the tablet thing is just not catching on, because people are already immune to tablets. They're already used to stuff like that, you know. But the Nintendo's coming out with another console in a couple of years or so. It's Nintendo X or something like that. That's the working title for it. So they're trying to stick in there. But I'd love for Nintendo just to stay away from consoles and just focus on making games for other platforms like Sega is doing. Like, what if we got Mario on PlayStation and things like that?
But
they're gonna have.
Isn't that taken away when you're still making games for these companies, but yet you're trying to be a competitor while building a console? Is it supposed to be a console or just another handheld gaming system?
I think it's supposed to be an actual console, Nintendo X, yeah. But it's still up in the air. You know, I think they're talking about making it kind of like, you know, console, but you can take it on the go too, things like that. I'm not too sure, but they are working on another console. Now, the Nintendo 3DS is doing great, man. That's what's keeping Nintendo alive is the 3DS.
Yeah.
It's the most successful handheld out there today. I mean, as far as gaming goes, it's kicking the Vita's ass, and the Vita's a better console platform. People just don't know about it, but they're doing very well. The handheld market for gaming, that's Nintendo. Nintendo owns that market. They've always done good with handhelds. They own that shit.
Yeah.
But I would love for Nintendo to get out of the console business and just become a game developer for other platforms like, you know, PlayStation and Xbox, like Sega did. Just be a game developer company and put the games there because people will buy them. They might have to do that to survive. Even though Nintendo is a very rich company, they can lose millions and millions of dollars and it not really hurt them. They're an old Japanese company. They're very stubborn. And that's why they don't listen to criticism. You know, they threw the Wii U out there, and people were giving them warnings, saying, "Hey, the tablet thing, it might not catch on, etc., etc." But they're a very stubborn company. They're set in their ways, very set in their ways, and that's why they won't. That's why they're sticking with the console business and the handheld business. You know, Nintendo was #1 for a long time, and they're kind of, you know, set in their ways with that. But I think they're starting to open up. You know, to open the doors up and say, well, maybe we can't really make another console. Let's just stick with making our successful games and just release them on mobile, release them on PlayStation, do it like that. Because people will buy it. You put Mario, Super Mario on PlayStation 4, people will buy the hell out of it. And it'd be really cool if they made it for PlayStation only, not Xbox. You know, Nintendo could be like, hey, we're an exclusive game developer company for PlayStation. That's it. That'd be awesome. You know, only on PlayStation can you play the new Mario and the new Zelda. That'd be awesome, man. Because Sony and Nintendo are Japanese companies. They're practically right next door to each other in Japan on that little island over there. So they can say, fuck Microsoft. Nintendo could be like, hey, we just make games for Sony. Sony had an agreement with Nintendo back in the early 90s to make a CD-ROM Nintendo system. The PlayStation 1 originally was going to be another Nintendo console, a CD-based Nintendo console, but things didn't work out. And Nintendo came out with the 64, and Sony came out with the PlayStation 1. But the PlayStation 1 was originally supposed to be a Nintendo console. They were going to work together. Yeah. So I'd love for Nintendo just to make exclusives for the PlayStation, just to really piss off Microsoft. That'd be awesome. You know, but I don't think that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, the things I love, you know, and picking back up where I was talking about, you know, when I left Dreamcast, not Dreamcast, but the Saturn, was the fact that when I went over to the PlayStation, you know, I enjoyed the graphics and stuff. But what really struck me was when the PlayStation 2 came out. You know, when it came out, and, you know, you could go online, you could use, you know, hook your Ethernet cable up, you know, you could get online, you could talk to other people. Like, I mean, man, you had some fun times, even back when we played like Mortal Kombat and stuff, Motor Combat. We were Team B back then, racing other people and kicking butts and stuff against other people that were racing against us. It's stuff like that that will draw you to it. And when you're consistent with that, that's the great thing about it, is that you stay consistent with it. That's what, you know, people are going to want. The better you get, the more you offer, that's what you're going to want. And I love that. Then the PS3 come out, and now you can use wireless internet with it, or you can use regular Ethernet with it, or you can still use the old composite hookup, even if you don't have an HD TV. But, you know, when it's went up to the PlayStation 4 strictly high definition HDMI, you know,
I said that's right. Yeah. When the 360 came out, it didn't even have Wi-Fi connection built into it. You had to buy a Wi-Fi adapter plugging through the 360.
Well,
that's how the PlayStation 3, the PS3 was ahead of its time. It cost a lot of money at launch, but for good reason, because it was the first Blu-ray player. It had Wi-Fi technology, all kinds of stuff. You know, and they had to cut out a lot of things to lower the price because, you know, it just wasn't catching on. But it was future-proof. You know, they had Wi-Fi built into it, good Wi-Fi too. I forget the exact speed, but it was more modern than the time. You know, it had the USB ports and all that. You know, so Sony really future-proofed the PS3. That's what was so cool about it.
Now the Slim,
it had Wi-Fi built in, all this other stuff. Then Microsoft comes back with the HD DVDs, and you had to buy the HD DVD player for the Xbox, and it wasn't really catching on. And Blu-ray won that war. HD DVDs versus Blu-ray. Who won that? Blu-ray won that. That's Sony. You know, we won that shit. You know, we had flags, Sony flags all day, man. Had USA and Japan flag with the little red circle on it. We did, yay, Blu-ray wins, you know.
Yeah, I remember that. I could tell they're in the losing battle, man, because it's like you go in Walmart and they were marking down like the $40, you know, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, dang, you know, this is a high-tech system, you know, and it's like, well, you know, it's not doing so good. But you could tell the difference, you know, in who was winning that. But it's like you said, though, the most of the old, and there was like 7 different kinds of 360s. Now, the one I had was the same.
Wait. One more thing about the HD DVDs versus Blu-rays.
Right.
The HD DVDs for Microsoft did worse than the laser disc from the 90s. You remember the laser disc that came out?
Mm-hmm.
HD DVDs did worse than the laser disc. Come on now. So Blu-ray kicked its ass. I just wanted to throw that in there, but go right ahead.
Well, no, and see, that tells you Microsoft is not, you would figure they would learn by now and try to improve, and that's what I was going to relate to the 360. It went through 7 different kinds of 360s until the Slim came on, because you know that dreaded Ring of Death came out. You know, that was killing a lot of the systems.
That's why the Xbox One is so big, because the 360 so it won't overheat, because the 360 was overheating a lot. Here comes the Xbox One. It's big as hell. It's bigger than the 70s VCR, because they don't want to have no overheating issues. And they're trying to work. They're trying to work on a smaller. Whereas you look at the PlayStation 4, it's about as big as a tablet or something. It looks modern. It looks futuristic. It looks like advanced technology. Well, you know, you look at PlayStation 4. You look at the PlayStation 4. You say that's technology. That's where technology is going. You look at the Xbox One, you're like, why is it so big and bulky and all that stuff? Now, the Xbox One, it's a good system. It's just as powerful as the PlayStation 4. I'm just talking about the way it looks, the cosmetics.
But they never learned, man. Here's the thing. I had the 360, right? You know, back when me and Sweet Pea broke up, you know, I had the 360 at the time. And I had it because Sweet Pea's little sweet pod, I guess you call it, had a 360, and they thought it would be a good idea. You know, we could play it, but the only problem was you had to buy online membership for it to go online. If he didn't have like gold and I didn't have gold, then we could never play together on nothing. You had to buy it, and that's what sucked with them. You know, I had the 360 Slim, and it was wireless. You know, I could connect through wireless connection with it, but it was just the problem is, I mean, unless you had gold membership for it, you couldn't get online at all, you know, and play with anybody. So what, you know, that's why when you were talking about PlayStation 3, man, I got a PlayStation 3. I was like, well, at least I know you can get online PlayStation 3 without having to pay nothing and be online straight and get all these apps and stuff, you know, that come along with it, you know, and to have up there and be able to get on YouTube and watch movies and do all these things. And, you know, and it was a great thing, but it's just, that's what attracted you. But just like Xbox, they didn't get it. Make your internet online access free. And like PlayStation has done with theirs, if you want to do a special like the Plus, then do something like that. Make your goal like that, you know. that where you can get extra games and little tidbits and things like that, give them incentive, but they didn't do that. They still haven't done that. That's the problem with them. They're not going to draw anybody if you're still having to pay to be online. That's what I didn't like about it. That's why I went over to the PlayStation 3 and went back to it. You know, the controller wasn't hard to handle, but man, when PlayStation 4, there's only one kind of controller you can get, a PlayStation 4 controller. Even if you get a third party, it's still a PlayStation 4 controller. When you got a slim controller, you had to make sure that, or a Xbox 360 controller, you had to make sure that it was for the slim model. If you didn't get it for the slim model and it was a different kind of remote, you were just SOL. You couldn't get another controller unless you paid another $40 to get a controller that you had to find, make sure, okay, I got to make sure it's the slim. Because if it's the arcade, if it's the original one, it's not going to work. Those will not work. That's what I like about the PlayStation. At least you get a third party. No matter what you get, it'll go to any PlayStation 4 because they don't make 4 or 5 of them. They got one particular one, except if they make it into a slim, which, you know, 2 or 3 years' time into the system, they'll probably make a slim because they have every other game system that's come out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're actually releasing a new PlayStation 4 model in a couple of months, but it's basically the same. It doesn't consume as much power. But it's the same size, and it don't have that shiny plastic on there no more, which they took that out for cost measures. But I like the shiny plastic on it. But Xbox, man, every time I played it, by the way, the 360 is a good gaming console. It really is. But I always felt like it was out. Since I'm a technology guy, a fan of technology, I always felt like the Xbox 360 was outdated. Every time I played it, like with the controller situation and all the different interpretations of the Xbox that came out, the slim model where they added Wi-Fi and all that stuff. I felt like they were just catching up to Sony. Sony, I mean, just look at the PS4, how small and technology looking it is, and then you look at the Xbox One, it's big and I just always felt like, as a technology fanboy, that 360 was just, you know, outdated, you know, during that generation. Because friend of mine, he had a 360. He had the big controller with the batteries in it. And I'm like, you got to change the batteries? He's like, yeah. I mean, but now they got it to where you can charge the controller with, you know, with rechargeable batteries and stuff. But at the time, it was just the AA batteries. I was like, man, that's so old school. I said, the PS3, you just plug it in and charge it. What the fuck? You know, it just little stuff like that threw me off. I didn't play DVDs originally. You had to buy that adapter for it and all that. But then they came out with the 360 Slim model that did all that stuff. And, you know, I just felt like hardware-wise, they were always behind. You know, even though it's got a really good processor, and the PS3 fucked up with the cell processor, and game developers had a lot of trouble working with the PS3 cell processor. But eventually they figured it out. But Microsoft, the reason Sony was doing bad at the time, and PlayStation started picking back up with their great exclusives like Uncharted, Twisted Metal, and so on and so forth, but you didn't have to pay for the online. So people say, hey, PlayStation 3 don't have no games, but we can sit here and watch Netflix on it. PlayStation 3 is still the #1 console for streaming Netflix. Yeah. Because people buy it. My friend Sean, he bought a PlayStation 3 just so he could watch Netflix, stream Netflix on his TV. You know, and Microsoft messed up there, you know, because they charge for online. You got to have Xbox Live membership to even watch Netflix. So that made people buy a PlayStation 3 to stream Netflix and all that stuff. They messed up there. I think the Xbox One's the same way. You got to have a membership to even watch Netflix. And then the PlayStation, they started turning things around, and they started coming out with better exclusives. They rebranded the PlayStation 3. And it was a successful console. You know, the 360 won that war, but not by much. The 360 came out a year earlier. That's why everybody bought a 360. It came out in 2005. PS3 came out in 2006.
Plus it
was expensive. PS3 was like $600. I mean, they messed up there. But they eventually turned things around, and they caught up with Xbox. Now, the Xbox outsold the PS3 by a couple of million or maybe 5 million or so. but that's not much considering the 360 came out a year earlier, and you know, things like that. And Sony had to do some rebranding, remarketing, but they did very well. You know, they about caught up with the Xbox. The PS3 is outsold the 360 in all other countries but America. So the PS3 was a very successful system. That's why I made that video, from failure to fortune. You know, they turned it around, and I respect them for that. And then the PlayStation 4 came out, and it was a gaming boom, just like with the PS2. The PS2, when it first came out, it was sold out wherever you go. PlayStation 2 was sold out wherever you go. It was a hot system, a gaming boom. You know, same with the PlayStation 4, man. It's just like the PS2 days again. Everybody's buying it. It's sold out, or it used to be sold out everywhere, but everybody wants it. Everybody loves it. It's a gaming boom. Like Jeff Jarrett would say, it's a wrestling boom.
But you see, though, dude, that's why Xbox One, they had to drop their price, what, 4 or 5 months ago for it to be $349? Now
The Xbox One is what the PS3 was at launch. They fucked up with the Xbox One like PlayStation fucked up with the PS3. They got cocky with it. Same thing happened with Sony, you know. And Sony came out with the PS4 all humble and apologetic, and they marketed it perfectly. But yeah, the Xbox One, it fucked up just like the PS3 at launch. You know, overpriced. You know, didn't have the games people were happy with, and all they talked about was TV. And now Xbox is rebranding itself. You don't have to buy the Kinect anymore, and the Xbox One is going to be a successful console, but the PS4 is so far ahead of Xbox One, it's going to have a hard time catching up. Same thing with the 360 and PS3. Yeah, the PS3 had a hard time catching up, but eventually it turned out to be a successful console. That's what's going to happen with the Xbox One.
I think it's the access problem myself. I just think that as long as you have to pay for access, it's going to always be a problem. And unless Xbox One has somehow changed that problem, I mean, is Xbox One today now, do you still have to buy a gold membership to play on Xbox One?
Yeah, you had to play games. I think they might have fixed the Netflix problem. Like, I think they'll let you watch Netflix without a membership now. I think they did that on Xbox One. I'm not sure. I don't follow Microsoft that much, but I think they did do that with the Xbox One. They made it to where you can watch Netflix and stuff like that. But the game online, you have to have a membership, which is fine. Sony's doing the same thing with PlayStation Plus. You have to have a PlayStation Plus membership to play games online, but you don't have to have it to watch your apps, to watch Netflix and things of that nature. And some multiplayer games don't even require PlayStation Plus.
So does that mean
PlayStation Plus has a 95% satisfactory rate to it. People like PlayStation Plus. You get free games every month. It's not a bad deal.
So does that mean that, like, if I wanted to, like, back when I played WWE 2K14 and I wanted to go to community and download, like, symbols or wrestlers, before I didn't have to pay it, does that mean if I go on PlayStation 4 and go on WWE 2K15 for the same thing that I'm going to pay to get on it this time?
Not for the community curations. If you want to fight somebody online, that's probably when you need the membership. But for doing, like, downloading community creations, things like that, I don't think you need it for that. It's just for the actual multiplayer. You know, when you want to fight somebody online or shoot with somebody, that's when you have to have PlayStation Plus, unfortunately. But it's not a bad membership. But you can still do things online with your game, like download characters and things like that.
Yeah, but DLC, through the online service, it helps you, like, when new DLC comes out, updates and stuff, through your system. Is that going to affect your updates or DLC to some of your games, maybe?
No, that has nothing to do with it. You can still download all the updates you want, DLC you want, all that stuff. You know? But plus, it's not expensive, and it's got a good satisfactory rate to it, and you get a bunch of free games, and I got a whole year worth of PlayStation Plus games that I downloaded on my console because I was unlocking them every month on PlayStationStore.com. I would unlock my free Plus games, membership games. And then when I got a PS4, I had a bunch of games I could play on it that weren't retail that came with the membership. But all in all, you don't have to have it. Like if you want to play Zen Pinball 2 with me, you don't have to have PlayStation Plus. But if you wanted to play like Call of Duty, Battlefield, you're going to have PlayStation Plus. I mean,
oh man, that means like, well, if we play like what was it we were talking about playing together? Like basketball or something, I'd have to have the membership to do it, right?
Yeah, but when you get your PlayStation 4, it's going to come with the 30-day trial for PlayStation Plus. So you can try it out, You won't have to worry about that right off the bat. They'll give you a membership, 30-day membership, And a lot of games you buy will come with a 7-day PlayStation Plus trial. You can just type in your voucher code, and it would expand your membership to 37 days. Got a 30-day membership. You buy a retail game, it comes with a 7-day membership. Then you have a 37-day PlayStation Plus membership, things like that. But you have PlayStation Plus right off the bat, so you can try it out, see if you like it or whatever. But you can still do gaming streams, game videos, still do all that stuff,
Well, here comes the point in question, bud. Since we've been talking about games, I want you to name your favorite game you've ever played and your worst game you've ever played, and why. Yeah, why did you not like it? Why did you like it?
Man, what is the worst game I ever played? First one that comes to mind. The first one that comes to mind is an ECW video game that came out in the late '90s for the PlayStation 1. Oh, that was terrible, man. It was so terrible. But I don't think that's the worst game I ever played. Some of the worst games I ever played was back like on Super Nintendo before I knew what the game was. I didn't research the game before I bought it. You buy a game and it turns out to suck, like Super Scope 6. I wasn't too happy with that. And I'm like, man, I don't waste my money on Super Scope 6. I ain't too happy with it. Yeah. Man, there's a lot of bad games I've played, but I try to do my research first, before I try it out. A lot of time nowadays I just play sequels, or established series, And there's some good new IPs that come out like Destiny, and I knew that was going to be a decent game because it comes from the makers of Halo and stuff like that. And it's a good series to get into. The Resident Evil games, WWE games, stuff like that keeps me, those are going to be pretty good games.
Yeah.
Established series that come out. My favorite game of all time, I'm not sure. Metal Gear Solid's up there for sure, but I can't leave out Super Mario Brothers from the Nintendo days. I can't leave that out. Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation 1, probably that's the best game I played on the PlayStation 1 for sure. That's how PlayStation 1 defeated the Nintendo 64 with Metal Gear Solid 1 because that was a PlayStation exclusive. And but Metal Gear Solid, that's probably my favorite series, especially Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain coming out. That's going to be game of the year. Mark my words on that. When that comes out next year, everybody's going to, have that game. Yeah. So I don't know what my favorite game of all time would be, but Metal Gear Solid's up there for sure. It's definitely in my top 3. Resident Evil's probably I would say Resident Evil's probably my favorite of all time because that's the game I put the much time into. Resident Evil 1 through 3 on PlayStation 1, I played them games all the time. Then on PlayStation 2, we got Resident Evil 4. I played the hell out of that. We got Resident Evil Code Veronica. PlayStation 3, we got Resident Evil 5 and 6, which, arguably they wasn't as good as the old ones, but it had good multiplayer, and I really enjoyed the multiplayer. PlayStation 4, I got Revelations 2 with the raid mode co-op. So Resident Evil is probably my favorite series of all time. It has to be because that's the most I put time into. Resident Evil is the best I've played, my favorite. Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solid, those two.
Cool.
I would say.
Well, that's good.
What's the worst game you played?
Well, I think, and to be honest with you, graphics wise, I will say there was a game back on, I don't know if it was the Atari system or what, but it was called Mission Impossible. And you had this little stick guy running floor to floor with a gun. And you had these little people come out these doors and you had to shoot the people. And, you know, and you'd hit him and he'd go back. And they would, if you hit, they hit you again, and then you would crumble up and die on the ground. I hated it. You would go up this elevator, but you could never really figure out how to get off the elevator. There was a look like a Back to the Future car in one of the rooms when you went up, and I'm like, how do you get that? And there was this guy, you know, when he died at the end, this green guy come up on the screen going at the end of it, which I thought was stupid. Graphics wise, that. Game wise, the worst game I've ever played, and I'm going to be honest with you, as far as control wise, that was TNA Impact. That, to me, that I bought that game. Sad to say, I bought that game because I tried to stick it in with TNA. But you have to understand it. Did you ever play TNA? Have you ever played that at all?
No, because I knew it was going to be garbage when it came out. I wanted to, but the reviews were so bad, terrible. But I'll just stick with my WWE games.
Well,
but back in the day, I would buy the WWE games and WCW games. WCW NWO Revenge for Nintendo 64 was awesome. I didn't have a 64, but my friend did, and Nintendo 64 had the best wrestling games. It really did. But then SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain came out, and that kind of turned things around. We started getting good wrestling games. But the worst game of all time is E.T. on the Atari. They got that game buried in Mexico somewhere. That's how bad it was. It's buried it. Yeah. Well, it was, man. It ain't nothing but a trademark. E.T. for Atari. It's nothing but a trademark. That game was made in like a month or two. It was rushed to come out around Christmas time, and it wasn't no thought was put into it. You know? Well,
I played TNA, and you know they made such a big deal. If you remember, they were showing Sting on there and Kurt Angle on there, and you know all these things. Man, the characters looked fine, but what they would do was they had this bad practice of basically showing you. They would zoom in on the wrestler, but the ring looked way big, and the controls to themselves to the moves was horrible. I've never played a more horrible game in all my life. And when I dated one of my exes, her younger brother liked TNA. I gave it to him. I bought the game new, played it a couple times, and I gave it to him. I'm like, I can't play the game. The guys look good. The wrestlers look good. It's just when you played it, it was hard to do the moves. And when it showed the matches, the wrestlers looked small inside of that big ring, you know. And I'm like, it looked way too big. So to me, that was one of the worst playing games. Another worst playing game. Do you remember Pro Wrestling on the Nintendo? When it had the guy that had the orange, there was two guys in the ring and they fought like this. They would come out and they would walk. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
That was that graphically wise, it was a horrible game. You know, and I didn't like it. That was just not one of my favorites. Now I've got just only a few dislikes, but here's my likes. Here's my favorite games. First of all, number one, Super Mario Brothers. All-time favorite game. Love Mario Brothers. You know, everything. Yeah. Number two, Zelda. Love Legend of Zelda. Link. Some people that don't think I'm calling Link Zelda. Link.
Oh, that's controversial.
Yeah. Link, that series was really good to me. Madden, as you know, I'm a sports guy. Madden, I think, was the best to me, the best sporting series they had. I love Madden, even though Madden's reached its peak, really. You really can't getting more realistic than what's already gotten. I mean, I don't know what they can keep doing every year to change that, but
they keep adding detail, man.
They,
Grass effects, wet
they've already
effects.
done all that. They've done everything I think they possibly can, from the sweat, the body movements, every kind of particular angle.
The crowd will start looking more realistic.
But they've worked on that too. They've tried. That's what I'm telling you.
They'll figure it. They'll come out with something. But
Madden, I think Madden was.
Some of the worst games I played was on Game Boy. The first Mortal Kombat game, they put it on Game Boy. And it was terrible. It just did not work out. You want to play a good fight game on the Game Boy? Try WWF King of the Ring for the Game Boy. That was pretty good. But the Mortal Kombat 2 was okay on the Game Boy, but the first Mortal Kombat, it was just a wreck on the Game Boy.
Well, it was.
But the rest of the games were okay.
Mortal Kombat was okay on the Nintendo. You know, it was okay on the Nintendo. I mean, for it being one of the first of its kind, but it's like you said too. Another great game system, Street Fighter. That series is awesome. I like Street Fighter. You know, Mortal Kombat. I love Mortal Kombat.
Did you play WWF Royal Rumble and WWF Raw for the Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis? WWF Raw. That was good. That was good.
I think I did.
I still play. I'll send you a video of it, man. I used to love that game. It came out for the Genesis Super Nintendo in 1994. WWF Raw. It was good, man. It had Royal Rumble mode in it. It was great. Yokozuna, he was skinny, though. He was skinny, and all the superstars were skinny. So you got Yokozuna on there with 0% body fat. It was hilarious. You know. But it was good, though. Had Lex Luger with the torture rack. He didn't do the elbow in that one. You know, you could put Yokozuna in the torture rack, which would be impossible in real life. Yeah, I think my voice is starting to echo real bad, so I might want to end this pretty soon.
Okay. All right, dude. Well, we'll go ahead and let this have time to, you know, load on up and everything. But you know, we'll and give you a little bit of a breather. I know it's been, you know, a good while, but you know, I'm just glad you got a chance to talk to you today, and let my you know, try to get us a Team B you know, collaboration here together. So you know, it goes up, and hopefully it goes up soon, and I'll try to fix it. But you know, I'm glad to have you on today. Glad you were able to share some insight, you know, with your gaming knowledge and your opinions and views on games and stuff. And you know, we'll get another one done hopefully soon again.
Yeah, this is our show, man. 50-50.
That's right. So
like Don Tony and Kevin Castle, man. I'm Kevin Castle today calling in.
Yeah, but I'm Kevin Castle because I done more to listening today.
Well, that's true, but you've talked more in other videos, so we kind of, you know, it just depends on the topic.
But you know, it's cool whichever way. I mean, it's all good with us. But I do appreciate you taking the time today, man. Like I said, we'll got to get together and we'll make another one, you know, and we'll see how this one turns out. You know, it's been a good while since for us to be talking, so hopefully it won't take so long to do. So, you know, but you know, YouTube, you got to check us out, Team B, on our channels or videos. My subscription, you know, subscribe to me, subscribe to BulletB. You know, check out his videos, like them. You know, tell your friends about them. You know, like my videos, subscribe to my channel. Welcome to subscribes, welcome to likes. Want to comment? Drop a comment, though. But you know, this is Team B. This is Bill Mack.
This is BulletB. Stay tuned because we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We got to talk about Vietnam next time.
That's right. There's more to come, folks.
Vietnam.
All right,
going to Vietnam. Help Bubba Gump Shrimp. Vietnam.
All right,
you're going to get caught on a tripwire with your lip there, Bubba. I was born with big gums, sir. But you better tuck that something in. Yeah.
Well, you take it easy, Bullet. I'll talk to you in a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this done, but you know, just take it easy. And folks, this is Bill Mack, Team B, BulletB, and
All right, comrade Bill. Check you later, man.
all right, signing out, man.
Stay away from communism.
USA #1.